Hello everyone, I am Ram Iyer. I am the producer and programmer for the team of AI Playtesting. AI Playtesting is a project at Carnegie Mellon University's Entertainment Technology Center for the semester of Fall 2020. This video is going to be a demo of the application that we have built and how designers can interact with this application. Um, Before I get into this video, there are a couple of things that I would like to mention. The first is that I have made another video where I explain the ideas behind AI playtesting and what we are trying to achieve in this project. If you have not have had a look at it, I would definitely encourage you to check it out because that video is going to give you a lot of the background information about what this application is going to do. I'm going to add a link to that video in the description below so you can have a look at it. The second thing is that the game that we have built the reinforcement learning agent for is called Slay the Spire. This is a game which is a combat card game and has a lot of deep strategy behind it. Um, and as a result of that, we thought that this game can be a good candidate to make a reinforcement learning agent for. If you have not heard of this game or if you have not seen this game, I definitely encourage you to check it out. I'm going to link the game in the description below as well. We in the team of AI playtesting have played this game and we definitely enjoy it a lot. We have played a lot of hours of this game, and this is something that we would definitely encourage you to check out as well. It is a good idea to get into the structure of the application before we jump into the demo. So there are three basic steps. The first of which is the design step. Here you will create a deck of your own from a list of available cards. You can also create your own card if you choose to. And you can also modify some other values like the player starting HP and the boss starting HP. The next step is the train step, where you will use the deck that you designed to train a reinforcement learning agent. This happens from the click of a button. The third step is the playtest step. Here you are going to take the AI agent that has just been trained and you are going to let it play a few thousand games. At the end of this, you are going to get a lot of generated data from the games that the AI agent has played. And this data is going to be visualized for you so that it is easily interpretable. To start, let's have a look at the design and train steps. Alright, so I've just opened up the app and I'm on the welcome page. I'm going to click the go button to enter. So the first part of the process is the design step, and that's where I'm taken to by default. I can always come back to the design step by clicking on the design button over here. Now, all of these cards that you see over here are the cards that are in this version of the deck, which is deck 3. Deck 3 is the deck that I've selected right now. By clicking on this little drop down, I can choose another deck if I wanted to. I can also create a new deck, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to call it deck 9 because I have 8 other decks already. And I can pick a template to base deck 9 on, and I'm going to base it on deck 3. So you see I start off with all of the same cards as deck 3. I can remove a card if I want to, and I can add new cards by clicking on the plus. So all of the cards that you see over here are available for you to add in the deck. These are not all the cards in Slay the Spire. There are actually many more cards in Slay the Spire, but we have not implemented them. We wanted to keep the scope of this project simple because the major focus of this project is actually the AI. So I can choose a couple of these cards to add to the deck. I chose Flex and Heavy Blade, and I can click on Add to add them. I see that I already have two versions of Heavy Blade, so maybe I don't want another Heavy Blade in the deck. I don't have a copy of Flex, so I'm going to let that be. And then I can uh, change the player HP and boss HP values if I wanted to. I don't want to do that right now. The last thing that I can do here, of course, is click on this play button that will open an executable that allows me to manually play this deck against the boss. This is implemented in Unity, and it takes the deck that you have built in the app. But again, I don't really want to do that right now. What I really want to do is go to the training step. Now, the number of iterations here, I think should be 15,000. 12,000 is a little low. The number of iterations that you want is generally between 15 to 20,000. There are more iterations needed when you have more unique cards in the deck, and you can get away with low number of iterations if you have very few unique cards in the deck. And all I have to do now after selecting the number of iterations is click on train. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can see that you can see this circle where the status is being reflected. It says right now that 117, 18 iterations are already over, and the remaining time is somewhere between 6 and 7 hours. One thing that you may want to know is the number of iterations is exactly the same as the number of games. So, what's really happening behind the scenes is that the AI agent is just starting to play some games. It has played 135, 36 games till now. It's going to play 15,000 games. At the end of each game that it plays, it's going to look at the different cards that it played in the game, and it's going to evaluate whether doing these actions, playing these cards, was a good idea or not. And then it's going to update its strategy for the next game, and it's going to do the same process over and over and over again for 15,000 games. So that's basically what's happening behind the scenes here. And since it says that it's going to take 6 hours, a little bit more than 6 hours, I'm going to let it train, and I'm going to come back when this is done. All right, so I've just come back to quickly check up on training. I can see that 1,183 games have been played already, and I see that 6 hours, and so it's still between 6 to 7 hours that are remaining. Another thing that I can do is click on this details button, and it's going to open up this graph which shows me the recent win rate. By recent, we mean the win rate of the last 500 games. You can see that it's going up slowly, and this means it's fluctuating a little, uh, and we see that it is doing quite well. The other thing that you see is the latest reward. Now, the reward is something that you don't need to worry about too much. It is something to do with the reinforcement learning algorithm. But the basic idea is that this reward, the better this reward is, the better the AI is performing. So, these are some training statistics that you can see while the training is going on. At this point, the training part is done. So, we can have a look at the playtest step. So I'm back after letting the training process end. Take two. So I'm back here after the training process has ended, and I'm now on the playtesting section. I can see that there's an option that allows me to select the AI for playtesting, and I see the Deck 9 AI that has just been trained. So I can click on that, and now I can choose the number of games that I want playtesting to be done for. Let's say that I want 2000 games to be played, and then I can click on the button called playtest. Once I do that, The trained AI agent is now going to start playing the game. The playtesting takes much lesser time than the training process because now the AI agent is already trained and it is just using the strategies that it has already developed to play the game. You can see that almost 1000 of the games have already been played, and uh, this just tells you that the training process is the one that takes a lot of time, but the playtesting does not take as much time. We are almost done. So once the playtesting is done, there's a lot of data available over here to see what has happened in the playtesting part. So let's start with the basic data. The first thing that you see here is the win rate, which is 93.6%. This is quite high. This can indicate that the game might be a little too easy. And if you want to check how to make this harder, you can remove a couple of cards from the deck, or you can reduce the starting HP of the player, and then you can see what sort of data is generated. So the first thing is the game length that you see over here, and this is a distribution of the game lengths that were found during playtesting. You can see that the peak is somewhere between 20 to 30. This would mean that in general, there were 25 steps in the game. And by steps, I mean there were 25 cards that were played in the game on average. The other part is the ending margin, where you see that there's a player HP distribution and a boss HP distribution. This just basically tells you that at the end of the game, what was the player HP versus what was the boss HP. So, a very clear thing from this graph is that most of the times the ending HP of the boss was less than zero, and this just tells you that the win rate is high. um, the other thing is that you can see the player HP is somewhere between 10 and 20. And this again tells you that when the game ended, the player had more HP than the boss, and the boss had less than 0 HP. The next part is the card analysis part. Now you can see a lot of data for each card in the deck. So the first thing is the opportunity utilized. Now, this basically means that how many times was the card played when it was available to play. You can see that this is somewhere less than 50%, and double tap a card has it much more than 50%. And this gives you some sort of information about what kind of cards the AI likes to play and what kind of cards the AI does not like to play. For example, Sword Boomerang Plus has a very low opportunity utilized. All right, so the second thing is card play position. This tells you in on average what was the play position of this card in a given turn. So a low play card play position basically tells you that the AI prefers playing this card earlier in the turn. The third thing that you see over here is a play count, and this tells you how many times this card was played throughout all the games played during playtesting. So you can see that Cleave Plus, for example, has been played almost 6,000 times, and Clothesline Plus has only been played 1,800 times. And this also gives you some sort of information about which card the AI likes to play versus which card it does not like to play. So if you want to compare all of these cards with one another, you can click on histogram, and this gives you a comparative analysis of these things that you just saw. So card utilization, you can see that the lowest is Sword Boomerang and highest is Flex Plus, followed by Double Tap and Feed Plus. You can also see the average play position. The lowest is Shockwave with the average play position somewhere between 1.3 and 1.4. This basically indicates that the AI likes to play Shockwave as the first or the second card in a given turn. And Sword Boomerang Plus, on the other hand, is close to 2.6, which means that the AI likes to play this card later in the turn. The third thing that you can see is the card play count. Uh, so Shockwave, for example, has been played fewer number of times, but Cleave Plus has been played a lot of times. Now, a thing to remember when you are looking at card play count is that the more copies of a card in a deck there is going to be a higher play count of that card. But still, this is a good statistic to look at. And if you want to look at a statistic that accounts for copies in the deck, you can look at card utilization because this is a percentage value. So this was the card analysis part. The third part is the card relationships. Um, we have pairs and triplets or triples. So basically, what you see here is how many times were a combination of two cards played. So, for example, I see that this combination, which is uppercut followed by cleave plus, has been played a lot of times. There is a typo here, it should be first card. Um, so, uppercut followed by cleave plus is a combination that the AI likes to play a lot. And this heat map tells me that there are some of these combinations that the AI loves to play. So this was about card relationship in terms of pairs. We also have triplets, but for the triplets we only can show you how many times a sequence of three cards was played, and we are going to we decided to include the top five of these combinations. So the the most occurring three card combination is flex plus, uppercut, and cleave plus. This makes a lot of sense because this combination of these three cards does actually deal a lot of damage. The other combination is flex plus, heavy blade, and cleave plus. Again, this combination will also deal a lot of damage. We have double tap, flex plus, and heavy blade plus. If you had knowledge about the cards themselves, you would know that this combination also deals a lot of damage. So you can see here that the AI has been able to identify the card combinations that deal a lot of damage and are going to help it win a lot of times. And that's basically the playtesting part. You can now go back and to the design part, and you can change some of these values. So it tells you that the deck is logged because you've already trained it. But if I wanted to make a new deck based on deck 9 that is now much more difficult, has a lower win rate, then I can go here, I can click on new, I can call it deck 10, I can choose deck 9 to start with, and then I can edit these cards. And let's say that I thought that Heavy Blade Plus and Flex Plus make this deck unbalanced, so I can get rid of those cards and then I can train again and then I can playtest again. So this is basically the entire loop of how the design, train, and playtest process can potentially help game designers identify what cards are broken, what cards are not very good, and how this game can be made more balanced by this process. Finally, let's have a look at how you can create your own card if you want to. So the last thing to see over here is the advanced mode of this app. You can access the advanced mode by clicking on this little drop down here and choosing advanced. The main feature of the advanced mode is that it allows you to create your own cards. So you can click on this cards button over here and it will open the card page that lists all the cards that are currently in the game right now. You can click on this little X sign to delete a card if you wanted to. This will delete the card permanently. It will ask you whether you want to delete or not. If I want to create a new card, I can click on this plus sign here and it will take me to the card creation page. You can see that there are all of these different card attributes that go into the card. You can choose, for example, the name type, energy, cost, the damage target. Here you can see you can choose the damage instances, the block. There's some card life cycle information. You can choose a lot of these buffs that go into the card and some special modifiers as well. I'm not going to create a new card right now, but I just wanted to show that there is space for you to create your own card if you want to. And after you create your own card, you can follow the same steps that we just saw to train a deck on made by your own cards, and you can see how good or bad the card is. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for watching till the end. Do check out the links in the description below. I have also included a link to my project website where we have explained in great detail all of the development work that we have done over the last 13 weeks. Make sure you have a look at that. Thank you very much once again and have a good day.